So with that, Justin is going to give us an update on the statewide policies, standards, and procedures review process.
My presentation today is going to be over our annual review process of our policy, standards, and procedures. And this actually applies both to PSCC and SIEC level procedures. One of our SCIP initiatives, SCIP Initiative 4, calls for us to develop a statewide framework of policy, standards, and procedures related to interoperable communications. And this is something we've been working on for a number of years. We currently have 9 different PSPs across 3 different categories. We've established a standardized template and style guide and established some approval and versioning processes for these. And now all of our PSP posted online on our website. With that, we're starting to get into, and I'm going to go through a little bit, but these are the 9 different PSP documents that we have in the governance, technical, and training areas. With that, all of these have kind of started to stabilize. We've gone through a number of different revisions for each of them and feel that they're really getting close. The standard process that we go through for approving a policy, standard, procedure is we start off with the initiation process, and it usually comes through either this body, the SIEC, sometimes it's stakeholder requests, sometimes it's through national dictates that things be created. We typically start off within the PSCC office developing an internal draft, kind of a straw man document. We reach out to some subject matter experts to get their feedback and thoughts on how the document should be organized and what content should be in there. We'll then bring it forward to one of our work groups, an MC work group, technical or operational work group. Then typically we'll go through a public comment period where we issue it out to our interested parties email list and on our website, and have kind of requests for input and review of the documents. And then the document is brought forward through a public meeting for draft review. Comments are accepted, changes are made. Sometimes we'll go through 1 or 2 public comment periods and draft meetings, and we bring it back for a final review and approval in a public meeting. This is really how all of our documents get processed, either PSPs or even our strategic plans and outreach plan. Since these documents have started to be stabilized, we needed to come up with a way to ensure that we don't let policies and procedures get stale just because there's nothing driving us to look at it. So we want to make sure that we do review every policy or procedure annually, and that we give an opportunity for the work groups to review them and for the public to provide comment on the policies and procedures in case there are updates that need to be had. A couple of our documents haven't been updated since 2010, although we have been looking at them and reviewing them. So the process that we would normally go through is to have the work groups and the public in the internal review process, and each quarter of the year we'll have a different set of PSPs that we're going to look at. The results of that review will then be presented either to the PSCC or SIEC as appropriate, whoever the final approval authority is over that document. And if revisions are needed, then we'll continue, make additional drafts, go through more public comment periods and drafts just like we normally would. But if revisions aren't needed, we'll simply update the last review date on the document and then keep it posted out there on the web. The original effective date of the document would remain the same. And in your package, you actually have the template kind of style guide that we've created. Normally, the effective date is the one everybody looks at. They want to know, like, for example, the Interoperable Channels Plan. When was that last updated? That's the date when it gets voted on by the PSCC. Down in the footer of the template, we've added a last review date because we want to make sure people know that if the document they're looking at is more than a year old, they need to know if they have the most up-to-date document or not. But we also want to communicate that if we haven't made any changes to the Interoperable Channels Plan, there's no need to go back out, reprogram your radio, and all that sort of thing, just because we've reviewed a document. During the review process, each document is reviewed for content updates, conformance with the SCIP, with national standards, other PSPs that may have been updated, plus guidance that we get from stakeholder agencies, Homeland Security, DPS, ADM, etc. We also look for any technical corrections, broken links, that type of thing. So the quarterly review process, the January through April timeframe is typically when we are in our annual SCIF review process. And so that's when we're also going to be looking at our governance documents just to give everybody an opportunity to provide an update on those. In the April to June time period, once the SCIP is approved, we start to then look at the PSCC office plan and the statewide outreach plan. That also corresponds with the NIMC work group's annual meeting. And so that's when we're going to look at the communications unit training related policies and procedures. Then the July through September timeframe is when we look at the group of kind of technical PSPs, the channels plan, minimum equipment standards, AIRS, SOP, that type of thing. Obviously, the AIRS MOU is actually a DPS document that doesn't get changed by this body. That is a DPS document, but that is something that, you know, if there are changes that had to be made for some reason, I think the only change that's ever been made to my knowledge is an addition of an additional clause at the end of it for Sudan. But that was kind of a statutory change that was forced on it. Then October, December is the time period when we would kind of typically look at any new PSPs that need to be created. That's also when our office is busy in our annual reporting season. We have reports to the federal government, to the governor, to the legislature, to the Secretary of State. So we have a lot of different reports that go on during that time of year. And so that time is set aside for any new PSPs that we might need. This year, most of our PSPs, as I said, are stable and really don't need any additional changes. However, because we have been rolling out a new format, there are some that will need some additional content, which will require an additional vote. For example, background, scope, definitions, references section. Some of our older policies don't have those sections in them yet. But for the most part, it's going to be just that type of content. I'm thinking in particular about the Interoperable Channels Plan. We're not looking at making changes to the channels, the channel names, the frequencies, anything like that. But we do want to bring that document up to the newest, or the newer template. I'm not going to go through each of the different PSPs we have there, so before I go on though, I wanted to open it up to see if there were any questions, thoughts, ideas on this PSP review process, any concerns you might have, or any other input you might want to provide. Pat says no, David says no, so I click forward.
That's good, thanks.
Again, I'm not going to go through all the different documents we have. I am going to touch up on the ones that we're going to be going, because it's July, so that means technical PSP review time. We're going to be, in the next week or so, issuing out a call to the public for reviewing all of the different technical PSPs that we have, ask people to take a look at them, see if there are any corrections or changes that need to be made to those documents. Within the technical category, we have the land mobile radio minimum equipment standards. Those were just updated last September, so I don't expect that we're going to need to update them. Those also are already in the new format, so there probably won't be any changes that need to be made to that document. I should mention the presentation on the website. These are all hyperlinked, so if you want to be able to quickly go to each one, it's there. The AIRS SOP was last updated January of 2012. This document is in the old format. Fortunately, most of the sections really are already there, so it's really going to be just a matter of converting it to the new format. The SOP is the document that really lays out how the AIR system should be used, it establishes priorities for guidance, that type of thing. The AIRS Improvement and Sustainability Plan is in the new format. We just approved that last October. right now, we have not had any agencies really go through the existing improvement plan. This is a document that helps to say how the air system can be expanded if local jurisdictions want to use their own resources to expand that system. We have currently 3 different agencies that are looking at making changes related to errors. So as these agencies go through, we may find things that need to be updated. Then lastly, the Interoperable Channels Plan. This was last approved January 11th of 2012. Along with the Channels Plan is the Priority Programming Guide. This document is in an old format, so we'll likely see a new version for approval, although, as I mentioned a couple of times, we don't expect to be actually changing any of the core content of those unless there's some reason that comes up to indicate that. So from here, I'm sorry?
With the programming guide, are we going to resubmit the stickers that go on the radios across the state? We put those up like 4 years ago, and I don't know if they've been updated since then.
Yeah, they actually have not been updated since then. In fact, they still say AIRS AZ on them, even though that's no longer there. So we're going to look at what we can do to update those stickers. I just happen to have about 1,000 of them left in my office, so I have a boss that doesn't like me spending money unnecessarily. But that is a...
They're good stickers. I realize they're out of date, but I mean, the current ones would be great, a great tool.
Absolutely. And along with this, we're in the process of developing a statewide TICP, and so that's one of the things we're looking at is once we have the statewide TICP completed, what other additional assets, kind of checklists, reference cards like that can we produce. So again, these are the 4 different technical documents that we're going to be reviewing over the next 3 months. We would appreciate any feedback that anyone has on those documents. Once we get them converted to the new format, those ones will probably require some additional content, which would require an additional vote by either this body or the SIC. Although even then, we don't expect the core content of it to actually change. Approval drafts will be reviewed and distributed as needed. The minimum equipment standards and the Arizona Interoperable Channels Plan are both documents that this body approves. The AIRS SOP and Improvement and Sustainability Plan are SIC documents. With that, this is probably the fastest I've ever presented to the Commission. Are there any questions?
Excellent. Thank you, Justin.